The massive space station called Harmony's Edge floated in the darkness between three solar systems. Its crystal walls sparkled with lights from ships that had traveled thousands of light years to reach this place. Inside the main meeting hall, 12 different alien species sat around a table that glowed with soft blue light. Speaker Vorlok stood at the head of the table. His forearms moved as he talked, and his gray skin looked worried under the bright lights. He was the leader of the Galactic Council, and today he had called an emergency meeting that would change everything. "We are here to talk about Earth," Vorlak said. His voice was deep and serious. Above the table, a small planet appeared in the air, spinning slowly. It was blue and green with white clouds, and it looked peaceful and beautiful. The other aliens at the table looked at the planet with confusion. Queen Tessara was there, her insect body clicking and making small sounds. Her large eyes studied the spinning world. "Why are we talking about such a small planet?" she asked. "Our reports say only 8 billion humans live there. They barely know how to fly in space." Admiral Cruex leaned forward in his chair. His body was covered in scales like a giant lizard, and his yellow eyes were sharp and intelligent. "The humans have not even learned to travel faster than light," he said. "Their weapons are simple: nuclear bombs and chemical rockets. Nothing that could threaten our ships." Other aliens around the table agreed. The humans seemed like children playing with toys compared to the great civilizations of the galaxy. But Vorlok raised one of his forehands, and the room became quiet. "3 months ago, we sent the first scout ship to Earth," Vorlok began. "The ship was called Silverwing. It had the best sensors and the strongest shields. 20 good soldiers were on that ship. They went to study the humans and learn about their world." He paused and looked around the table. Ship never came back. The aliens shifted in their seats. Queen Tessara's clicking sounds became faster. "Ships get lost in space," she said. "Maybe they had an accident?" "That is what we thought too," Vorlok continued. "So we sent the Heavy Sword, a warship with 50 crew members and enough weapons to destroy a small moon. It also disappeared. No signals, no messages, nothing." Admiral Cruix's scales changed color from green to dark red, which meant he was becoming angry or worried. "2 ships could be bad luck," he said slowly. "The Dominion Empire sent an entire battle group to Earth last month," Vorlok said. His voice became very quiet. 12 ships, 300 soldiers, the most advanced weapons in their fleet. He looked directly at each alien around the table. All gone, as if they never existed. The room became silent except for the soft humming of the space station's engines. The little Earth continued to spin in the air above them, looking innocent and harmless. "There is something on that planet," Vorlok said. "Something we do not understand. The humans look weak, but 3 of our strongest fleets have vanished near their world. Whatever is protecting Earth is more dangerous than anything we have seen before." Dr. Mellon spoke for the first time. She was thin and tall, with pale blue skin and very large eyes. Her people were known for being very smart and careful. "Have we tried to contact the humans directly?" she asked. "Maybe they know what happened to our ships." "We have tried," Vorlok answered. "The humans have many different governments, and they do not speak with one voice. Some of them do not even know that life exists on other planets. But we have noticed something strange in their radio signals." The image above the table changed. Now it showed patterns of radio waves coming from Earth. The waves looked normal at first, but then strange shapes appeared in the signals, mathematical patterns that repeated over and over. These patterns started appearing in human broadcasts 3 months ago, Vorlok explained. "Right after our first ship disappeared, patterns are complex, very complex. They contain mathematics that our best scientists are still trying to understand." Queen Tessara made a worried clicking sound. "You think the humans are sending us a message? Think something on Earth knows we are watching," Vorlak said. "And I think it is trying to tell us something. The question is, are these patterns a warning or a threat?" The aliens talked quietly among themselves. Some thought the humans were more advanced than they appeared. Others believed there was another species on Earth, something hidden that the humans did not know about. A few thought the disappearances were just accidents. Admiral Cruex stood up from his chair. "Whatever is happening, we cannot let fear control us. If there is a threat on Earth, we should deal with it. Send a larger fleet. Use our strongest weapons. No, Vorlok said firmly. That is exactly what we will not do. The Dominion thought the same way. They sent their best warships, and now they are gone. We will not make the same mistake. Dr. Mellons nodded slowly. Speaker Vorlok is right. We need to be careful. Till we understand what happened to those ships, Earth should be treated as extremely dangerous. But they are just humans, Admiral Cruix argued. Primitive creatures who fight each other with metal bullets and chemical explosives. How can they threaten ships that can destroy planets? Vorlok said, is exactly what we need to find out. But not by sending more ships to disappear. The voting began. One by one, each species decided whether Earth should be marked as a danger zone. The vote was close, but finally most of the aliens agreed. Earth would be surrounded by warning signals. No ships would go there, no contact would be made. The humans would be left alone until someone figured out what was protecting their world. As the meeting ended, red warning beacons were placed around Earth's solar system. Every space map in the galaxy was updated with the same message. Extreme danger. Avoid at all costs. The aliens went back to their homeworlds, feeling they had made the right choice. Earth was marked as forbidden, and the galaxy would be safe from whatever mysterious force lived there. But the Galactic Council did not speak for everyone. Far away, in a different part of space, Emperor Drex of the Talaxian Empire was looking at the same blue and green planet. He had not been invited to the council meeting, and he did not care about their warnings. A planet full of primitives, he said to himself, and the council is afraid. He smiled, showing sharp teeth. More riches for the Empire. The warning had been given, but not everyone was listening. 6 months had passed since the Galactic Council placed their warnings around Earth. The red beacons floated in space, sending out signals that told all ships to stay away from the small blue planet. But far from the Council's territory, Emperor Drex of the Talaxian Empire was preparing for war. The Imperial fleet gathered near the edge of Talaxian space. 200 ships filled the darkness like a cloud of metal and death. The largest ship was called Iron Fist, and it was bigger than most space stations. Its black hull was covered with weapons that could crack open planets, and its shields could stop the light from a star. On the bridge of Iron Fist, Fleet Admiral Cruix studied the battle plans with satisfaction. He was a large alien with thick muscles and scars from many fights. His people had conquered 15 solar systems, and he had never lost a battle. Today would be another easy victory. Show me the target again, Cruix said to his second-in-command. Lieutenant Dr. Avos. Dr. Avos was younger and smaller than the Admiral, but he was smart and careful. He touched a control panel, and Earth appeared in the air above them. The planet looked small and helpless compared to the massive warships surrounding it. 8 billion humans, Dravos said, reading from his report. They have nuclear weapons, but their delivery systems are primitive. Chemical rockets that take months to reach their own moon. Most of their technology is hundreds of years behind ours. Cruix laughed, a sound like metal grinding against stone. Nuclear weapons, he said mockingly. Do they think to fight us with chemical explosions? Our shields can protect us from solar radiation. What could their tiny bombs do to us? The bridge crew worked at their stations. They were all experienced soldiers who had won many battles. The idea of being threatened by humans seemed ridiculous to them. They had weapons that could destroy moons and shields that could stop any attack the humans might try. Sir Dravos said carefully, our intelligence reports mention something strange. The Galactic Council has marked Earth as forbidden. 3 of their fleets have disappeared near that planet. Cruix waved one of his hands dismissively. The Council are cowards and politicians. They probably want to keep the planet's resources for themselves. Think about it, Dravos. 8 billion slaves and a planet rich with minerals. Why would they want to share such wealth? Dravos nodded, but something in his voice showed he was not completely convinced. The reports say the ships simply vanished. No distress signals, no wreckage found. Space is dangerous, Cruix replied. Ships have accidents. Maybe they flew too close to the star, or their engines failed. The humans certainly did not destroy them. He pointed at Earth spinning slowly. In the hologram, look at them. They still use wheels to move on land and wings to fly in their atmosphere. They are like insects compared to us. The Admiral turned to his weapons officer, a scarred veteran named Brutus. How long to reach Earth at full speed? 6 hours, sir? Brutus answered. The fleet is ready for battle. All weapons charged, all shields at maximum power. Excellent. Back! Korax sat back in his command chair, feeling the familiar excitement before a fight. We will arrive in their system, demand surrender, and take control of their planet. Any resistance will be crushed quickly. The fleet began to move. 200 ships turned toward Earth like predators hunting prey. The journey would take them through empty space past warning beacons that they chose to ignore. Emperor Drex had given clear orders: take Earth and make its people into slaves. Nothing else mattered. As they traveled, Korax thought about the glory this victory would bring. The humans would provide workers for the Empire's mines and factories. Their planet would become another source of wealth and power. His name would be remembered as the Admiral who conquered the mysterious world that had frightened the Galactic Council. Sir, the communications officer called out. We are receiving the Council's warning signals. They are telling us to turn back. Ignore them, Korax ordered. We do not take orders from the Council. Hours passed. The fleet moved closer to Earth's solar system, their powerful engines pushing them through space faster than light itself. On each ship, soldiers prepared their weapons and checked their equipment. They expected an easy fight against primitives who still used gunpowder and metal bullets. We are entering the Earth system, the navigation officer announced. All ships report ready for battle. Through the main window, they could see Earth growing larger ahead of them. It looked peaceful and beautiful with blue oceans and white clouds. There were no signs of advanced defenses, no weapons platforms, no shield generators. Just a simple planet with simple people. Open a channel to all human communication frequencies, Korax commanded. It is time to make our demands known. Communications officer worked at his controls for a moment, then nodded. Channel open, sir. We're broadcasting to the entire planet. Korax stood up and activated the holographic recorder. His image would now be sent to every radio and television on Earth. He wanted the humans to see exactly who was conquering them. People of Earth, he began, his voice loud and commanding. I am Fleet Admiral Korax of the Talaxian Empire. Your planet is now under our control. We will surrender immediately and accept your place as subjects of the Empire. Any resistance will result in the complete destruction of your cities. He paused, letting his words sink in. Around him, his officers smiled. They enjoyed watching primitive species learn their place in the universe. You have 1 hour to respond. With your surrender, Korax continued. If you do not comply, we will demonstrate the power of Imperial weapons. This is your only warning. The transmission ended. Now they would wait for the terrified humans to beg for mercy. Korax had given this same speech to dozens of planets, and the result was always the same: fear, panic, and then complete submission. But the response from Earth came much sooner than expected. Less than 30 seconds after Korax finished speaking, a single transmission reached the Iron Fist. The voice was calm and spoke perfect Talaxian, which should have been impossible since humans had never met their species before. Admiral Korax, the voice said, you have 30 seconds to turn your ships around and leave this system. This is your only warning. The bridge became completely silent. Every officer stared at the communication panel in shock. A human was giving them an ultimatum. A primitive creature was threatening the mighty Talaxian Empire. Korax's face turned dark with rage. Did that animal just threaten us? He roared. Sir, Drevo said quietly, how did they know your name? How did they speak our language? Does not matter, Korax snarled. Show them what happens to those who defy the Empire. He turned to Brutus. Target their largest cities. Prepare to fire. Brutus hesitated for a moment. Sir, our sensors are picking up strange energy readings from the planet. The patterns are unlike anything in our database. I do not care about energy readings, Korax shouted. Fire our weapons now. The weapons officer activated the firing controls. Across the fleet, particle beam cannons charged with deadly energy. Each weapon contained enough power to vaporize several city blocks. The humans would learn the price of defiance.
Firing,
Brutus announced. Beams of pure energy lanced out from the Imperial ships toward Earth. The humans had been warned, and now they would face the consequences of their arrogance. The particle beams from the Talaxian fleet cut through space like burning swords. Each beam carried enough energy to destroy an entire city block and turn stone into vapor. Admiral Corex watched with satisfaction as the deadly light raced toward Earth's surface. In moments, the humans would learn what happened to those who dared to threaten the Empire. But as the beams entered Earth's atmosphere, something impossible happened. The energy weapons simply stopped, not deflected or absorbed, but frozen in, midair like lightning caught in a photograph. The beams hung motionless in the sky above Earth. Their deadly light turned into harmless decoration. "What is happening?" Corex demanded, staring at the main screen in disbelief. Lieutenant Dravos checked his instruments frantically. "Sir, the weapons have lost all forward momentum. They are suspended approximately 50 kilometers above the surface." "That is impossible," Brutus said from his weapon station. "Nothing can stop a particle beam except matter conversion shields, and the humans do not have that technology." As they watched, the frozen beams began to change direction. Slowly at first, then faster, they turned around and pointed back toward the Imperial fleet. The same energy that had been meant to destroy human cities was now aimed at the ships that had fired it. "Evasive maneuvers," Corex shouted. "All ships scatter." But the beams moved faster than the ships could respond. They struck with twice their original power, enhanced by forces the Talaxians could not understand. The destroyer of Vengeance took a direct hit and exploded in a ball of fire that lit up the darkness of space. 40 crew members died in an instant. Killed by their own weapons, across the fleet, alarms began to sound. Ship captains reported the same impossible thing. Their own attacks had been turned against them. The humans had somehow caught energy beams traveling at the speed of light and thrown them back. "Sir," the communications officer called out, his voice shaking with fear. "We are receiving multiple transmissions from Earth. The sources are spread across the entire planet, but they are all speaking perfect Talaxian." The main screen flickered and filled with the image of a human face. The creature looked ordinary enough: pale skin, dark hair, soft features that showed no signs of warrior breeding. But its eyes held an intelligence that made even the battle-hardened admiral feel cold inside. "I am David," the human said in flawless Talaxian. His voice was calm and patient, like a teacher explaining something to slow students. "We tried to warn you through the Galactic Council, but your pride made you deaf to wisdom. You looked at our simple weapons and thought us weak. You mistook our restraint for inability." More human faces appeared on smaller screens around the bridge. A woman with kind eyes who called herself Maria, an elderly man named Robert whose wrinkled face showed deep intelligence, a young girl who could not have been more than 12 years old, but who introduced herself as Lynn with complete confidence. "Your reconnaissance fleets," David continued. "The ones that disappeared, they are safe. We have been studying your technology, learning your languages, understanding your intentions. We hoped the Council would recognize the wisdom of leaving us alone." Admiral Corex found his voice, though it came out rougher than he intended. "Our sensors show you have no advanced technology, no energy weapons, no defensive shields, no faster-than-light travel. No technology that you can recognize," Maria interrupted gently. "Tell me, Admiral, what do you know of consciousness itself as a force, of will made manifest in the physical world, of 8 billion minds learning to work as one?" The words hit Corex like a physical blow. Round him, his officers stared at the screens with growing horror as they began to understand. The humans were not using machines to defend themselves. They were using something far more terrifying: their own minds. Trained and focused into a planetary defense system that treated the laws of physics as suggestions rather than absolute rules. "You are telepaths," Dravos whispered. "We are more than that," the young girl Lynn replied. though Dravos had spoken too quietly for normal hearing to detect. "We are consciousness learning to shape reality. Your species developed tools to manipulate matter and energy. We developed ourselves." Through the main window, they could see Earth more clearly now. The planet's surface was changing, showing patterns that had not been visible before. Massive geometric designs spread across continents, connecting cities and landmarks in ways that formed complex circuits. What they had thought were simple roads and buildings were actually components of something vast and incomprehensible. For thousands of years, Robert explained, his elderly voice carrying the weight of deep knowledge, humanity fought itself. Wars, struggles, suffering, all of it, teaching us to focus our collective will when survival demanded it. We learned that consciousness, properly directed, could reach beyond the boundaries of individual minds. The display showed Earth's surface in real detail now. Cities flowed and reshaped themselves like living organisms. Mountains moved aside to reveal underground networks that connected every continent. The oceans themselves pulsed with organized patterns of energy that had nothing to do with weather or tides. "We are not 8 billion individuals operating separate bodies," Maria continued. "We are consciousness itself, learning to dream reality into new shapes. Your weapons are matter, an energy bound by the rules your scientists discovered. Ours are imagination and will, limited only by what we can envision together." Dravos leaned close to his admiral and whispered urgently, "Sir, the energy readings from the planet are not coming from any external source. The power is being generated by the humans themselves, all 8 billion of them, working together." Another ship in the Imperial fleet began to change. The cruiser Dominator slowly transformed from angular military design into something that resembled a flower made of living light. Its crew was visible through transparent petals, but they appeared to be in a state of peaceful meditation rather than distress. "This is what we offer," Lynn said, her young voice carrying impossible authority. "Not conquest, not submission, but evolution. Your people could learn to transcend the limitations of matter to become something greater than the sum of your individual parts." Korox's training as a military commander warred with growing terror. Everything he had learned about warfare and conquest was useless against an enemy that could rewrite physical laws through pure thought. "And if we refuse your offer?" The human faces smiled with what appeared to be genuine sadness. "Then you leave," David said simply, "and you never return. The choice is yours, Admiral." Around the bridge, instruments began to show readings that made no sense. Space itself was changing near Earth, becoming something that followed different rules. The Imperial fleet hung motionless, not because their engines had failed, but because the humans had decided they should remain still until a decision was made. "Your missing fleets," Maria said, "are learning what we have to teach. Some chose to stay and become part of something larger. Others will return home carrying new understanding. But all of them discovered that consciousness itself is the greatest force in the universe when it learns to work in harmony." Admiral Korox stared at the transformed ships floating near his fleet. His weapons were useless, his shields meaningless, his tactical advantage completely gone. For the first time in his military career, he faced an enemy that could not be defeated by force. The humans waited patiently for his decision. Their 8 billion minds focused on giving him the choice between evolution and retreat. The power to destroy his entire fleet was there, gentle but absolute, held back only by their mercy. "What are you?" Korox asked quietly. "We are what you could become," Lynn answered, "if you choose to grow beyond the need for conquest." Admiral Korox's first instinct was to fight. His entire life had been built around conquest and military victory. When faced with an enemy, the answer was always to use more firepower, better tactics, stronger shields. But as he stared at the human faces on his screens and watched his own ships being transformed by pure thought, he realized that everything he knew about warfare had become meaningless. "Retreat," he ordered through gritted teeth. "All ships fall back to safe distance." But his ships did not move. The engines were running, the navigation systems were working, but the Imperial fleet remained motionless in space. It was not that their technology had failed. It was that something else had decided they should stay exactly where they were. "We are not holding you prisoner," Lynn said, her young voice somehow reaching every member of every crew in the entire fleet. "We are teaching you. Please observe what consciousness can accomplish when it works in harmony." Through the main window of Iron Fist, Corex watched as another of his dreadnoughts began to change. The massive warship called Dominator had been built to destroy planets, its black hole covered with enough weapons to crack a world's surface. But now it flowed like liquid metal, its angular military design reshaping itself into something beautiful and organic. The transformation was not violent or destructive. Instead, it looked like the ship was remembering how to be something better than an instrument of war. Weapons became flowing curves of light. Armor plating turned into transparent panels that showed gardens growing inside the ship. The bridge became a crystal dome filled with soft, warm radiance. "The crew is unharmed," Robert explained, his elderly voice gentle but firm. "They are experiencing what we call guided evolution. When they return to your empire, they will carry within them an understanding of what consciousness can achieve. When it transcends the need for violence, Corex could see the Dominator's crew through the transparent sections of their transformed ship. They were not prisoners or victims. Instead, they sat in comfortable spaces that looked more like a peaceful parked in the inside of a warship. Their faces showed wonder and calm understanding, as if they had just awakened from a long, troubled sleep. "This is impossible," Corex said, but his voice lacked conviction. "Matter cannot be restructured by thought alone." "The laws of physics prevent such changes, do they?" David asked. "Your species learned to build tools that manipulate the physical world according to the rules your scientists discovered. We learned to develop ourselves according to rules that your scientists have not yet imagined." The screen showed Earth's surface in perfect detail. Massive cities flowed and reshaped themselves like living things, their buildings growing taller or changing form as their inhabitants needed them to. Mountains moved aside with casual ease to reveal underground transportation networks that connected every continent. The oceans themselves seemed to breathe with organized patterns that had nothing to do with natural tides. "Watch carefully," Maria said. "This is what 8 billion minds can accomplish when they learn to work together." High above Earth's surface, something new began to appear. At first it looked like a small moon, but as it grew larger, Corex realized it was being created from nothing. Raw matter was being assembled from the energy that surrounded the planet, shaped by the collective will of humanity into a perfect sphere of crystalline beauty. "A new moon," Lynn explained simply. "We needed a place for visitors to stay while they learn about us. It seemed easier to make one than to clear space on Earth's surface." The creation process took less than an hour. Corex watched in stunned silence as an entire world was born from concentrated thought and focused intention. The new moon was not just a ball of rock, it had an atmosphere. Oceans, continents, and cities that sparkled with their own inner light. "The energy requirements," Dravos whispered. "To create that much matter from pure energy would require the output of a star." "We are the output of a star," Robert replied, somehow hearing the quiet comment from across the void of space. 8 billion. Conscious beings, each one a small sun of awareness. When we focus together, we can accomplish anything that does not harm others. Another ship in the Imperial fleet began its transformation. This time, it was the cruiser Brilliant Sword, and Corex watched as it became something that looked like a vast flower made of living light. Its weapon systems turned into organs that produced beautiful music that somehow reached the crews of other ships. Its armor became petals of transparent crystal that showed gardens and libraries inside. "Your people," David said, "could learn to do this as well. Consciousness is not limited to humans. Every thinking being has the potential to reach beyond the boundaries of individual thought." Corax's pride warred with growing fear and something else, a strange feeling that might have been wonder. "You speak of evolution, but this looks like magic." "Magic is just science that is not yet understood," Maria replied. "Your ancestors once thought that radio waves were magical. Our current technology would seem like magic to creatures who only know fire and stone tools. What we do is simply the next step." The demonstration continued. More ships transformed into beautiful, impossible shapes. Some became geometric patterns that hurt to look at directly because they seemed to exist in more dimensions than the normal. 3. Others turned into flowing sculptures that resembled living things made of light and music. Each transformation is chosen by the consciousness of the crew, Lin explained. We do not force change upon anyone. We simply show them what is possible and let them decide if they wish to grow. Through his ship's sensors, Corex could detect the crew members of the transformed vessels. They were not just alive, they were more alive than before. Their brain patterns showed levels of activity and coordination that should have been impossible. They were thinking faster, understanding more, and experiencing reality in ways that normal minds could not comprehend.
How what?
About those who do not wish to change? Corax asked. They return home carrying knowledge, Robert answered. Not everyone is ready for transformation, and that is acceptable. But once you have seen what consciousness can become, you can never completely forget. As if to demonstrate, one of the transformed ships suddenly returned to its original form. The cruiser Stormbringer became a normal military vessel again, its crew looking exactly as they had before. But Corex could see in their faces that something fundamental had changed. They had experienced something beyond ordinary existence, and that experience would stay with them forever. Choice, David said simply. Always choice. We offer growth, but we never force it. The final demonstration was the most incredible of all. High above the Imperial fleet, space itself began to change. The darkness filled with colors that had no names, patterns that existed in dimensions beyond normal sight. Reality became flexible, showing them glimpses of what the universe could be like if consciousness learned to shape it directly. This is our gift to the galaxy, Maria said. Not conquest, not submission, but the knowledge that matter and energy are just the beginning. Consciousness itself is the true force that drives all existence. Corex realized that his entire understanding of the universe had been turned upside down. Everything the Talaxian Empire had accomplished with technology and warfare was primitive compared to what the humans had achieved through the development of their own minds. Your empire, Lin said gently, can continue its expansion across lifeless worlds, taking resources and making slaves. Or it can learn to transcend the need for expansion altogether. The choice is yours. Admiral Corex looked around his bridge. At his officers, some showed fear, others wonder, a few displayed the same stubborn anger he felt. But all of them had been changed by what they had witnessed. They had seen the impossible become reality, and they would never be quite the same again. If we choose to leave, Corex said carefully, will you let us go? Of course, David replied. But you should know that others are coming. The Galactic Council has detected your presence here. They are mobilizing their forces to prevent any Imperial expansion into Council territory. You face a choice, Robert added. Evolution or isolation? Growth or stagnation? The old ways of conquest and domination, or something new and beautiful? Beyond your current imagination, human faces on the screen began to fade. But their final words reached every member of the Imperial fleet. Choose wisely. The universe is waiting to see what you will become. 3 days later, the Talaxian Imperial fleet returned to their home system. But they were not the same ships that had left to conquer Earth. 40 vessels had undergone complete transformation, their crews carrying within them an understanding that would forever change how they saw the universe. The remaining ships bore subtle changes, symbols carved into their hulls that pulsed with gentle energy, marking them as having encountered something beyond normal comprehension. Admiral Corex stood in the shuttle bay of Iron Fist, preparing to face Emperor Drex. He knew his career was over, possibly his life as well. Returning from what should have been an easy conquest with tales of impossible humans and transformed ships would sound like madness to Imperial ears. But the evidence was undeniable. His fleet had been changed by forces that made their most advanced technology look like children's toys. The journey to the Imperial Palace gave Corex time to think about everything he had witnessed. Lieutenant Dravo sat beside him in the shuttle, his young face showing the same mixture of wonder and confusion that had plagued them all since leaving Earth. Neither man spoke during the flight, but both carried memories that would haunt them. Forever. Emperor Drex received them in the great throne room of the Imperial Palace. The massive chamber was designed to intimidate, with walls of black stone and weapons mounted like trophies from 1,000 conquests. The Emperor himself was larger than most Talaxians, his body enhanced with mechanical implants that made him stronger and more dangerous. His yellow eyes burned with barely controlled rage as Corax approached the throne. "You return in defeat from a primitive world," Drex said, his voice echoing through the chamber. "Explain yourself before I have you executed for cowardice and incompetence." Corax knelt before the throne, but his eyes held a depth that had not been there before his journey to Earth. "Your Majesty, we did not encounter primitives. We encountered gods who were learning to use their power wisely." "Nonsense," Drex snarled. "Show me evidence of this supposed power." Without speaking, Corax gestured to Lieutenant Dravos, who stepped forward carrying a standard Imperial plasma rifle. The weapon was a masterpiece of military engineering, capable of cutting through the strongest armor or destroying small vehicles with a single shot. "Observe," Dravos said quietly. The plasma rifle began to change. Not through any visible technology or external force, but through focused intention that seemed to come from Dravos himself. The weapon's metal frame flowed like water, its sharp edges becoming smooth curves. The energy chamber that had once held destructive plasma now glowed with soft, warm light. Within moments, the instrument of war had become a flowering branch of crystalline beauty. The throne room fell completely silent. Palace guards reached for their weapons, but their hands stopped before touching the grips. Emperor Drex stood slowly. From his throne, his mechanical implants humming with increased power. "You have been contaminated," Drex said, his voice filled with disgust and growing fear. "All of you." "Not contaminated," came a new voice that seemed to speak from the very air itself. "Educated." David materialized in the center of the throne room, not through transportation technology or hidden entrances, but through the simple act of choosing to exist in that space. The human projection was translucent, but clearly visible, its calm presence somehow making the vast chamber feel smaller and less intimidating. Panic spread through the palace guards, but their energy weapons passed harmlessly through the human image. David continued speaking as if nothing had happened, his voice reaching every corner of the massive chamber. "Your admiral speaks the truth, Emperor Drex. We offer knowledge, not conquest. Understanding, not domination." The human projection turned to look directly at the Emperor, and even Drex's enhanced body seemed to shrink under that gentle gaze. "Your empire has built itself on the idea that strength comes from taking what others have created. We offer a different path. You dare appear in my palace?" Drex roared, his mechanical voice amplifiers making his words boom through the chamber. "You dare threaten the Talaxian Empire?" "Threaten nothing," David replied calmly. "I simply offered choice. Your fleet attacked our world, and we showed them what consciousness can accomplish when it grows beyond the need for violence. Some of your people chose to learn. Others, like Admiral Corax, carry within them seeds of understanding that will grow over time." Emperor Drex drew his personal weapon, a plasma cannon designed to destroy armored vehicles. He fired directly at the human projection, but the energy beam passed through David's form and struck the wall behind him, leaving a smoking crater in the ancient stone. "Your weapons cannot harm us," David explained patiently. "Not because we are stronger, but because we have moved beyond the level of existence where physical force has meaning. Your empire can continue its expansion across dead worlds, or it can learn to transcend the need for expansion altogether." "Never," Drex snarled. "The Empire will not bow to alien magic." "It is not magic," David said. "It is evolution. It is not alien. Consciousness belongs to all thinking beings. Your people have the same potential we do. They simply need to learn how to develop it." Around the throne room, something strange began to happen. Palace guards and court officials found themselves remembering things they had never experienced, moments of perfect peace. Understanding that reached beyond individual thought, the feeling of being connected to something vast and beautiful. These were not their memories, but glimpses of what their consciousness could become. "You see?" David asked. The capacity is already within them. Within you as well, Emperor, though your augmentations make the process more difficult. Lieutenant Dravos stepped forward, still holding the crystalline branch that had once been a weapon. Your Majesty, I have seen their cities reshape themselves. With a thought, I have watched them create matter from pure energy. They built a new moon in less than an hour, complete with oceans and forests, Elias Drex said, but his voice lacked conviction. You could see the truth in his officer's eyes. Feel the strange new energy that surrounded the returning crew members. Your empire faces a choice, David continued, his form beginning to fade. Other species have learned of your attack on our world. The Galactic Council is mobilizing their combined fleets to prevent further Imperial expansion. You can meet them with weapons and warfare, or you can surprise them with something they have never seen, growth instead of conquest. Choose quickly, David added, his voice becoming distant. The old ways of taking what others have built will only lead to isolation and eventual destruction. But the new way, the way of developing consciousness itself that leads to wonders. Beyond your current imagination, the projection vanished, leaving the throne room in stunned silence. Emperor Drex stood motionless, his enhanced mind trying to process what he had witnessed. Around him, his court officials and guards struggled with new thoughts and feelings that seemed to come from somewhere beyond their individual selves. Admiral Corax remained kneeling, but his voice was steady when he spoke. Your Majesty, I have served the Empire faithfully for 30 years. I have conquered 15 worlds and never retreated from battle. But what I saw at Earth changed me. We cannot defeat them with force, and we cannot ignore them. The choice is simple: evolve or face destruction. Months passed. Galactic Council's fleet arrived at the edge of Talaxian space, expecting to fight a desperate battle against an aggressive empire. Instead, they found a request for peaceful negotiations. The message was written in perfect council standard and signed by Emperor Drex himself. The negotiations were unlike anything in galactic history, though Talaxians did not demand territory or resources. Instead, they asked for teachers. They wanted to learn about consciousness development, about growing beyond the need for conquest, about becoming something greater than the sum of their individual parts. The first Talaxian embassy was established on Earth 6 months later. The building was not constructed in the traditional way. Instead, it was grown from focused intention, shaped by human consciousness working in harmony. With Talaxian minds that were just beginning to understand their own potential, Emperor Drex himself visited Earth a year after his fleet's defeat. He came not as a conqueror, but as a student. Mechanical augmentations slowly being replaced by organic growth as his consciousness learned to shape his own body. The change was difficult and sometimes painful, but he persevered because he had seen what was possible. The warning about Earth was updated in every galactic database, where once it had read extreme danger avoid at all costs, it now carried a new message. Approach with respect. The teachers are waiting. Trade routes that had once avoided Earth's solar system now made regular stops at the planet's new orbital stations. These were not built from metal and electronics, but grown from crystallized thought and maintained by the collective will of their inhabitants. Beings from across the galaxy came to learn about consciousness development, about transcending the limitations of matter, about becoming more than they had ever imagined possible. And in the deepest archives of the Galactic Council, a single entry served as a reminder to all spacefaring civilizations. Humanity warned us gently through missing fleets and strange radio signals. In their mercy, they allowed us to learn through wonder rather than fear. Let no species forget that consciousness itself is the greatest force in the universe, and that those who master it become teachers for all who are ready to grow. Humans, for their part, continued their quiet work of helping others discover their own potential. They healed the psychological wounds of war-traumatized species, mediated conflicts that technology could not resolve, and served as living proof that intelligence could transcend the need for domination. The universe had learned to dream more carefully after humanity showed them how consciousness could reshape reality itself. In that careful dreaming, new possibilities were born that no one had imagined before the day a primitive planet. taught the galaxy what it truly meant to be alive.